Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another ship fitting guide for Eve Echoes. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Minmatar Stabber Fleet issue, which is one of the tier 6 cruisers you can get as a medium cannon pilot. Now this video is kind of meant as a follow-up to the Stabber Trainer guide that I did, so if you have started out with the Stabber Trainer and you're looking to see where to go with that, do check out that video first. Obviously the Stabber Fleet issue is kind of a ship that you'd progress into at a later date. That said as well, if you are interested in the Stabber Fleet issue, or just in Minmatar cannon cruisers to begin with, ultimately do check out my video on the Rupture as well, because at Tech Level 6 you get access to both the Rupture and to the Stabber Fleet issue, and they are two very different ships that encompass two different playstyles, so it's well worth checking out both of those to make sure that you are going with the ship that suits your playstyle best. Now, having already done the Rupture, of course, I thought it was time to have a look at the Stabber Fleet issue, and that's what we're here to do today. So we're going to have a look at this ship, what it is, what it does, how to fit it, and how to fly it. Now, if you do enjoy this video, let me know by hitting like on it, subscribe to the channel for all things Eve Echoes, ding that notification bell so that you never miss a video, and of course, let me know in the comment section down below what topics you want to see me cover in future videos, and what ships you'd like to see me cover in future ship fitting guides. Finally, if you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel and the content that I put out, you can do so by joining us on Patreon. Details are on screen now. That said and done, let's talk about the Stabber Fleet issue. You'll find the Stabber Fleet issue in the Minmatar Republic ship tree, and of course it's up at Tech Level 6 of the Cruiser branch, so if we tap in, we can have a look. Now, the Stabber Fleet issue, like the Thrasher Fleet issue before it, sports this unusual forest camo, this kind of green and brown look. Now, I just don't get that. How big are the trees that you're trying to hide a 350 meter long cruiser in that you're painting it with camo? Look, I get it. The Republic fleet was hidden in the Great Wildlands from the Amar Empire for a time before the big battles and all that kind of thing. They hid it in the Great Wildlands. But you know what? The Great Wildlands is a region of space. It's not a flippin' forest. Why would you paint a ship in camo? How is that ever going to help? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Stabber Fleet issue. Looking at its fitting profile here, it's just like the other Navy ships. So things like the Omen Navy issue, they all have the same fitting profile, which is to say one drone tube, which can launch either small or medium drones, 5 high slots, 3 mid slots, 4 low slots, and then 2 of each of the power grid and mechanical rigs. Now, it should be noted that when you go from the Stabber Trainer into the Stabber, you go from 3 low slots up to 4 low slots. That's 3 low slots on the Stabber Trainer, 4 on the Stabber. Then when you come from the Stabber up to the Stabber Fleet issue, you gain that additional turret. In this case, you're going from 4 turrets on the Stabber to 5 turrets on the Stabber Fleet issue. That on its own is already a 25% increase in DPS. If you imagine you've got 4 turrets and you fit them each to do 100 damage, that's 400 damage. If you've got 5 of those turrets fitted, that's now 500 damage. That should make it nice and simple to see how that works. Big DPS increase there. Now, defensively speaking, the Stabber Fleet issue is slightly more fragile than the other ships in this kind of bracket. 11,580. It's not the most solid of ships out there, but being Minmatar, that's to be expected, and it does make up for that in other ways later on, as we'll see in a moment. Interestingly enough, though, if we look at how that's spread, 2,879 on its on structure, but then the shield is 3,651, and the armor is 3,250. There's actually not that much difference here between the shield and the armor, and in all honesty, if you've been training armor skills and you've decided that you're going to move into the Stabber Fleet issue, yes, you can armor tank this. Given an ideal situation of skill points, I would still personally go for shield tanking it, but to the same effect, if you're going up against a lot of people using lasers, for example, which obviously deal electromagnetic and thermal damage, don't feel guilty for putting armor repairers onto this thing. It works. It is a valid strategy. If you're going up against Amar encounters, like you're doing some of the Amar storyline missions, don't feel ashamed for swapping out your shield tank for armor tank on a Stabber Fleet issue. It works. Now, I mentioned that the defences aren't everything on the Stabber Fleet issue, and that's where the bottom half of this page comes into effect. You'll see here that flight velocity of 283 meters is actually faster than many destroyers. That's insane. And some people have said, but hang on Benzie, destroyers have a really good inertia modifier which helps them maneuver quite quickly as well. Yeah, the Stabber fleet issue's got an inertia modifier of 0.29 times. That's insanely low, which makes it very quick to turn and very quick to accelerate and start moving. This is basically a destroyer that is just pretending to be a cruiser to get those additional high slots. This is very much a fast-moving ship. And especially with that signature radius of 86.4 meters, that's barely bigger than a destroyer in itself. This really is it's a destroyer in cruiser's clothing. Good scan resolution there as well, 324 meters, does mean it locks on fairly quickly, and as we'll see in the trait descriptions, we do get bonuses to that as well through Advanced Cruiser Command. Advanced Cruiser Command here gives you a 5% increase to flight velocity, a 5% increase to scan resolution, and a 5% increase to sensor strength. That just means the ship is going to be moving up to 25% faster, so 283 plus an additional 25%, which is what, another 60? I can't work that out off the top of my head, but it's fast. It's fast, and then an additional 25% scan resolution and sensor strength, meaning it locks on very quickly for a cruiser of this size. Looking at advanced medium cannon operation as well, that then gives an increase of 7.5% medium cannon accuracy fall-off, and a 3% reduction to medium cannon activation time. At full training then, that's 37.5% increase to the accuracy fall-off, and a 15% reduction to activation time, meaning that it fires that little bit faster and considerably further, which is something that we can lean into with one of the builds that we'll be showcasing later. But it does mean that the Stabber fleet issue is an incredibly versatile ship. We've already seen that you can shield tank it or armor tank it. We're now going to have a look at different ways you can fit this for combat. If you're watching this video on its day of release because you're smart and subscribed to the channel whilst dinging that notification bell, then make sure to head to my Discord at the end of this video where this exact Stabber fleet issue is going to be auctioned along with all of its fittings and rigs. That's the fittings of both builds that I'm going to be showcasing. Link to the Discord is in the description down below. Now, the first of these two builds that I'm going to showcase is, of course, a sniper build. Heck, if you give me a ship with an accuracy fall-off bonus, I'm going to turn it into a sniper ship. Now, in order to do so, the top slots here are fitted with Republic Fleet medium strike cannons, because these things have absolutely insane range. Here you can see an optimal range of 26.67 kilometers and an accuracy fall-off of 33.22. Now, some of you have asked in the comment section how I work this out and what I'm actually doing, what kind of magic I'm pulling when I talk about these different numbers. Now, I have done a video on turrets, but it does need updating, I won't lie, and I am in the process of doing a new how turrets work video, but for the time being, accept that optimal range is the range at which your guns are a 100% effectiveness, assuming a stationary target of a decent size, that kind of thing. The accuracy fall-off is then the distance beyond optimal, at which it gradually reduces from 100% down to 50%. Once you reach the end of that accuracy fall-off, you apply a second accuracy fall-off, and that gives you the 50% down to 0%. So in this case, the 26.67 is your optimal range, you are 100% effective at that range. Accuracy fall-off is then 33.22, so add those two together and you get basically 60 kilometers. That means by the time you hit 60 kilometers, you're at 50% effectiveness, dropping down to 0% effectiveness by the time you hit 93 kilometers. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the downside to the strike cannons is, of course, their tracking speed. 15.28 is ludicrously slow and is going to struggle to hit anything that's close by. Those are kind of the two things that we're going to build around them. We're going to build around the concept of range and making sure to cover for those weaknesses. Now, for the concept of range, first things first, we've got two Marketeer tracking computers fitted here. Now, these give a range skill bonus of 16.06%, an accuracy fall-off adjustment of 16.06%, and a tracking speed adjustment. So we're getting the additional range for having two of these things fitted to the ship, and these are cold stats, that's just for having it fitted. That gives us those ranges that we saw a moment ago. You can then activate this to increase those bonuses by 500%. That increases the maximum range, the optimal range, and the fall-off range massively on those strike cannons, allowing you to do some rather insane alpha strikes at a long distance, which I'll talk about later. The other side of that, though, is the tracking speed adjustment bonus is multiplied as well when you activate one of these computers, meaning if something does get a bit too close and your turrets are struggling to track it, you can activate these and thus increase the tracking and hopefully hit the target. On the concept of keeping range, though, we have a micro warp drive fitted. Yes, this does increase the signature radius of the ship quite dramatically, and it chews into our capacitor bank, but it does allow us to move around the battlefield at some quite frankly ludicrous speeds. 507% flight velocity adjustment on what is already well over 300 meters per second means that you can outrun frigates in this thing. Genuinely, I have been in my Merlin assault using a micro warp drive, and I have been outrun by a stabber fleet issue. That is how utterly ridiculous this thing's speed can be. But there we go. That's that's the idea in this case, that we're going to try and keep that range as best as possible. So as soon as anything gets close, we turn the other direction, micro warp drive into the distance before reapplying our guns and shooting again from the newfound range. The other side of that, though, again, going with the fact that the strike cannons have really low tracking speed. Obviously, we've got the tracking computers, which can be activated for a bonus to those, but I've got a couple of Mark V stasis Weberfires on here. Now, I normally would go for 3 Mark V stasis Weberfires, I just didn't have 3 in my hold at the time, so ultimately I've just gone for 2 at the time being, because let's be fair, what else are you really going to fit on a ship like this? There's no other module that operates really at this range. That third slot, you might decide that you're going to put something like a warp disruptor in, but even then, that's only going to work at 26 kilometers. The idea here being that those Weberfires do nothing most of the time, but you can activate them should anything get a little bit too close for comfort. Being able to drop the target's speed and then increase your turret's tracking means you may actually be able to hit it. And of course, the drone as well is going to be there for that exact job. I've got the drone skill up to 4. On this character, so that means I've got a 24 kilometer control range. Oh no, actually I've got it to 5 on this character. Would you look at that? 25 kilometers. Anything within 25 kilometers my drone can target. Once anything gets within the 11.2 kilometers, I hit the stasis Weberfire on it as well and then finish it off that way. Rigs for this are fairly self-explanatory. The first is a cannon metastasis adjuster, 15% power grid requirement adjustment. If you try to fit 5 strike cannons onto a ship like this without those, it's not going to work. You need to have extraordinarily high cruiser engineering in order to fit a full brace of strike cannons without using any form of rig. Fortunately, cannon metastasis adjusters are not expensive at all on the market because almost no one bothers to use them, which is a shame because it means you can put 5 big cannons on a ship like this. The other one is, of course, a cannon collision accelerator flat damage bonus. This is going to be better than the burst aerator. If you had to choose between a collision accelerator and a burst aerator, go for the collision accelerator because the stabber is all about that alpha strike. Sometimes you can kill things in one strike if you've got enough damage in that first, so you don't even need to fire the second one. That's the reason we go for the collision over the burst. Now, for the mechanical rig, a dynamic fuel valve is the first one I've gone for here, just so that we use less capacitor when we activate the micro warp drive, and an auxiliary thruster just helps us lean into that speed bonus a little bit more. And you'll see that with my skills and with the rigs there, this ship has a basic speed of 478.84 meters per second. That's a cruiser. Remember that that's a cruiser and that's its basic navigation skill. That's before we put the micro warp drive on, which increases that by 500 odd percent. Yeah, that's kind of what we're going for here, and it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And it's 220.48 DPS. Okay, admittedly that's over 25 kilometers, it's only 196.51 at full range, but again, when that range is over 60 odd kilometers, who the heck cares? You just kind of keep the distance, destroy everything before it even gets close. The second build we're going to look at, as if you hadn't already guessed, is a Captain Benzie special up-close and personal Brawler build. That means getting right up into your opponent's grill and dishing out as much damage as possible directly into their face. This means this time around we swap out those straight cannons for medium autocannons. These are of course the short range variant of the medium cannons, although short range is a little bit of a misnomer. Yeah, okay, the optimal range is only 3 kilometers, but they've got an accuracy fall off of 17 kilometers, meaning anywhere from 3 to 20 kilometers is basically going from 100% down to 50%. You're still pretty good even 20 kilometers away, and you can hit from 37, which is just astonishing when you think about it for a short-ranged cannon. They do a decent amount of damage as well, 63.2 DPS, and they've got a good tracking speed of 57.31. Means we don't need to worry too much about leaning into the weaknesses of medium weapons. But of course, in the mid slots, we have still got one Mark 5 status weather fire, just to be sure, in case anything arrives that is a little bit faster than we'd like. We've got the status weather fire and the drone there to help you take care of it. In the low slots, we still have a tracking computer as well. That just gives us that little bit of extra range and that little bit of extra tracking speed. Though, in fairness, this one you probably can swap out either a gyro stabilizer, or if you're having a bit of trouble, swap in a second shield booster, though be aware that a second shield booster will stop you being capacitor stable, as long as that second shield booster is active. Obviously, if you're only running one shield booster, you'll be fine. Just the second one proves to be a little bit too much for your capacitor. On the subject of shield boosters, of course, we've got a Republic Fleet medium shield booster here. If we're going to be that close, we're going to be taking a lot of fire. We're going to need to have a way to quickly repair that. The medium shield booster is, of course, our way of doing so. A Posse Adaptive Invulnerability Field takes up the next slot, increases our shield damage resistances, so that whilst this is active, the shield takes a little bit less damage than you might anticipate, and just makes it easier to keep yourself repaired. Again, if you notice, we do have quite a bit of power grid here. That is mainly thanks to the cannon metastasis adjuster rig, though. You can either lose the metastasis adjuster rig and put in more DPS with a cannon burst aerator rig. That will increase your DPS up a little bit more if you're going to be only using the autocannon build, or you could leave that there and swap the shield booster here for even a large shield booster. You can just about cram one in with the right amount of engineering. Finally, in the low slots then, we have a Republic Fleet medium afterburner. We've swapped the micro warp drive out for an afterburner. This allows us to sort of speed tank. I'm not going to call it true speed tanking because you're a little bit too big for that, but it allows you to maintain a good enough speed that the really big guns do have trouble hitting you. You can kind of orbit those and not worry too much about it. 147% flight velocity adjustment with no signature radius penalty. Big boost. Now, as I said, things are a little bit risky on the capacitor here if you were to go for a large shield booster or two small medium shield boosters, but we solved this mainly by having 2 energy Nosferatus. I've got one Imperial Navy medium energy Nosferatu and one Mark 5 energy Nosferatu. I only had one Navy one, and I'm not Mark 7 yet on this character. Can't use Mark 7 gear yet on this particular toon, so there we go. Either way, though, 8 km optimal range, 4 km accuracy fall off works like turrets, meaning 8, 12 and 16 km being your boundaries. Ultimately, we're going to want to be anywhere around the 8 to 12 km anyway, because of how those autocannons work. So this is all about just basically pick a target, orbit it and start shooting, pick the next target, orbit and start shooting. As with any brawler build on a ship this size though, go for the smallest targets first. They are going to be your biggest threat because they're going to be the ones that get under your guns. But go for those first and you should be okay. To showcase this sniping build in action, I'm jumping into Jack the Ripper Advanced at about 60 kilometers away. This is one of the 3.5 million ISK reward missions that you can get, so it is fairly tough. I think it's tech level 7, but it does have a couple of elites in it or something, but we'll find out. Anyway, so what have we got? We've got a Corpi Punisher Assault and a Dragoon Assault. Those are both going to be priority targets, being fairly small and fast moving. Sort by name rather than distance, because that's more important. And double tapping the distance, let's start moving away from these so we can start getting a bit of distance. Going to drop the drone into space as well. Oh, that was a fairly hefty, nice first shot. Okay, there we go. Decent amount of alpha strike on that Corpi Punisher Assault, but the second shot there missed. Of course it did. Again, strike cannons, not very good tracking, and when you've got something as small as a Punisher Assault coming at you, well, you want to get a bit of distance. Let's lock onto the rest and start to kite away. Now, looking at the rest of the list, those are pretty much all we need to worry about for now, so we're going to deal with those first, whilst kiting away at a bit of a distance. There we are, there goes the Corpi Punisher Assault, and we're going to move on to the Dragoon next. Start to take that one out. Being a Dragoon Assault, obviously we're expecting it to be fairly fast moving and to want to get close. That's not what we want with a build like this, so I'm going to set an approach away to about 50 kilometers. There we go, start to turn. And once we've got a bit of angle there, going to activate that micro warp drive for a single cycle, cancel it immediately just to see what kind of speeds we can reach. 2,200, 2,300, 2,400... Oh, nearly 2,500 meters per second if it weren't for that running out of the micro warp drive activation there. Am I alone in thinking that is insanely fast for a cruiser? 2,500 meters per second. Yeah, it's a micro warp drive, but still. Oh. Anyway, let's move on to the planet here and start to draw away. Now, the reason I pulled the overview out this far is to get an idea of where I am in relation to the enemy's ships. You can see the fleet there, and there's the 4 ships I'm working at, and by going towards that planet that I've selected in the distance, I'm now moving at sort of a 45-degree angle away. I don't want to move straight away. A direct line away is not a good angular velocity at all. In fact, it's an angular velocity of 0, which makes me a fairly easy target for anything capable of hitting me. But I do want to be drawing some distance away. 90 degrees, obviously completely perpendicular, is best for not taking any form of damage. It's your best way for not getting hit, rather. But I do want to be moving away so that none of these get too close. Hence the 45-degree angle being the literal halfway point between the optimal straight line away and they're going perpendicular. So there we are, moving away. You can see at 50 odd kilometers now I am still hitting that augurer, but it's not doing all that much damage. That's fine. Notice I'm taking no damage at all in response. The aim here is that I am outranging everything. This is completely about me range tanking by being far enough away that nothing even hits. I mean, you can see that beautiful light show of lasers, but nothing is actually doing any form of damage to my shields or my armor or anything like that. I haven't even really had to activate my shield booster yet. But it does take a bit of time. That's the downside to a build like this. It's the safety over speed. The brawling build will kill things faster, but it will die quicker too, and that's kind of a point that we need to go into here. Anyway, I am going to skip ahead a bit because I want to showcase what happens when we change between the waves, but until then, I'm just going to kind of keep drifting and keeping my distance here. I don't want to go too far away or I'm going to start missing all the time, but also I don't want to get too close either. Anyway, let's skip ahead for a bit. Okay, I'm going to bring it back in at this point, just me versus this Corp and Prophecy. It's about to go down here in the last hit, possibly from the drone. You can see I have taken quite a bit of damage. I decided to come in a little bit close for this one, just to sort of see what kind of damage it could deal, and I did have to drain pretty much all my capacity doing so. Next wave has spawned. What do we have? Oh, there's the Ripper Punisher. This is the elite that I was talking about, so we're going to start shooting at that one first of all. And of course the game then diverts that to the wrong target. No, not this one. Ripper Punisher. There we go. There we go. Now we're going to want to kill this thing fairly quickly so that now we're there, we're drifting away. This is an elite, it's going to be fast moving and hard hitting, so I'm going to activate both those computers to make sure we get as solid a shot as possible. 50 optimal range, 60 on the accuracy fall off there. That's 110 kilometers for 50% effectiveness, and I can shoot theoretically all the way to 170. Good lord, that's terrifying. Anyway, there we are, so we're pulling away a little bit too far, 50 kilometers now, 48. Oh no, he's pulling back in. He's pulling back in on us. That Ripper Punisher is not going to let us escape here. Need to shoot that before it gets too close or we could have problems. Okay, stay calm. Stay calm. We know this build can do this. So let's see if those shots manage to hit on the way in. Did that do anything? 316 damage. It's not quite as heavy as some of the other shots we've been doing, in fairness, but it's not terrible either. I'm just hoping we can do a bit more to that. There we are, 730. That's a stronger hit. Anyway, it's coming towards drone range now. Once that hits the 25-kilometer margin, I can actually start to send the drone... And that one missed. I can actually send the drone into combat. Oh, the fact that that one missed is really disappointing. That could have been quite nice. There we are. We can send the drone in. Let's move towards this planet here. There we go. Start drifting away. Oh, and look, the armor repairer is running now. So let's get the... Get that tracking computer on as well. I really want to kill this thing because now it's getting within 15 kilometers. That's getting worrying. Send the drone in. Thank you. There we go. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but drones seem to really be misbehaving for me recently. I don't know if it's just my fat fingers not hitting the buttons properly or if something changed in the patch, but there we go. Yeah, now we're in web of fire range. I'm going to web and activate that second computer. and hopefully we can get rid of that Punisher quickly. All of my shots keep missing, which is really annoying. I promise this build can do this. There we are, he's moved away 12 kilometers. Nice strong hit there though. Drone is at least hitting and doing a little bit of damage. Gonna put that shield booster on for a bit just to wrap up. Ah, there we go. There was the nice cannon strike we wanted to finish him off. And on we go to the Corpy Punisher, and with the micro warp drive activated now, we can start to pull away a bit further. See if we actually have a decent top speed this time. Does it cross the 2,500? Yes it does. 2,500 has been crossed. Don't think we're going to hit to the 2,600. No, it's not quite. But still, that is an insane amount of speed for a cruiser. But there we have it. I'm pretty sure you can see now that the rest of this wave is not going to be a problem. It's like the last wave. I can just keep kiting, keeping my distance, heal up that little bit of damage I've taken, and let my capacitors recharge as well. This sniping build on the Stabber Fleet issue is utterly terrifying. This is just it in PvE. If I had the time, I would take this into PvP and showcase the utter filth that this can do there. We've had Stabber Fleet issues parked outside our station before at distances of like 150 kilometers and still hitting people from there if you've got the right build for it. In fact, just sitting at 120 kilometers makes it a frightening prospect having 3 or 4 of those back when you could target someone instantly as they undocked. You can't really do that nowadays. There's that whole 60-second timer thing, which, in fairness, I'm all for. Station camping is boring. Gate camping has its place, but station camping, as far as I'm concerned, that's just a really boring way of PvP, and there are ways around it. Instead of camping the station, camp the gates that they're jumping to, for crying out loud. It's fine, it's fine. Anyway, there we go, folks. That is everything I wanted to talk to you about regarding the Stabber Fleet issue. This, as far as cruisers go, is one of my favourites, simply because of that ridiculous speed. It almost feels like I'm flying a frigate sometimes. A frigate with cruiser-sized guns, admittedly, but a frigate at speed nonetheless. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Are you using a Stabber Fleet issue at all? Is it a ship that you're looking forward to using in future? Do let me know in the comments section below. Do send me screenshots on Twitter using the hashtag CSKL. Love to see all of those. And if you've listened this far, do now go and check on the Catskull Cartel Discord for the auction of this particular ship. All of the fittings, both this sniper build and the Brawler fit, are included in that auction. So good luck, and hopefully someone gets a really cool ship out of this one. Thanks for watching right to the end, folks. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.